I would actually like to know the panel's opinion on the GRC system in Singapore, which is very unique actually. I have not seen this anywhere else in the world. Does it really favor the ruling party always? Because in the last GE, as we saw, one GRC actually doubled the opposition MP count in the parliament.
I don't know which one that would be, but some thoughts about GRC systems.
Sure, I'll take this first then. I think the GRC system is quite unique in terms of electoral systems. I mentioned this earlier as part of the panel, but we actually have the most MPs, the lowest MP per capita for most major parliamentary democracies. When you look at Taiwan, they have 200,000 individuals to one MP, and in Singapore that figure is around 60,000. So it begets the question, right, of why do you need so many MPs first of all, and why do you need this convoluted GRC system to be overlaid on top of everything? I understand the government's rationale in progressing it. I do think that times may have changed a bit, and it doesn't serve the purpose it was intended to. I'll just put it that way, at the risk of persecution. And one thing I'll add to conclude, right, about this GRC system, I think the government is also realizing that it is the sword that they will live and die by. If they win big with GRCs, they will also lose big with GRCs when they lose them. And that's why you see a scaling down of GRCs from 6-man, 5-man GRCs to, I think, something more appropriate. I'll put it that way.
So this is an old issue. I think the GRCs were introduced first in the 1988 general election. And from that time till 2011, how long is that? 98, 08, 20 over years lah. No opposition party was able to win any GRC. And it is simply because for smaller parties, right, it's harder to have the required combination of candidates simply because we have fewer candidates. So for instance, say I've got 2 very promising candidates, right? And we need to field a GRC. I have to find that minority candidate, otherwise nobody can run. So in that sense, it is at the expense of smaller parties, because if you do not have the passport, meaning that minority candidate, and it's gazetted whether this area is Malay or this area is Indian, if you don't have the required, Indian and others, sorry, so if you don't have the required person to become the passport, the whole team is just out. So for smaller parties, this has always been a disadvantage. And we also are not convinced about the fact that if we had a system of single seats, that we would really have no minority MPs in Parliament. We don't believe that this is the case, and we have case examples in history that showed that, you know, for example, minority candidates could win in a predominantly Chinese constituency, for example. So we don't believe that Singaporeans vote primarily because of race, right? So this has always been an issue. But in 2011, that was the first time that a GRC fell to Workers' Party. That was in Aljunied. But I have to say, being part of that team, that it was a combination of very special factors at that time. And not so easy to replicate. Of course, we can talk about what happened in 2020, which is a different story altogether. But in general, there are disadvantages to smaller parties because of this. Some voters don't like it because maybe I like these 2 people, but I hate this 3rd person. You know, then what are you going to do with the other team? You know, but of course, the other complication is about gerrymandering. So the voting patterns in different precincts are known to parties that participate, because we each have our counting agents. We know this area, what was the percentage for this party, that party, and so on. So we don't know how this factors into the boundary redrawing, you know, but our sense is that it's not so easy to win single seats now, because I can just draw a single seat anywhere I like. You know, the boundaries committee, you sort of can't appeal against the announcement of the boundaries. So there is a lot of potential for gerrymandering, and I would say in the ruling party's favour. So this sometimes makes the argument that single seats are easier to win. It's not so clear to us now because of this gerrymandering complication. So right now, I would say that although we don't like it, I mean, opposition parties, if we can get the resources to fill in GRCs, we will, because this is the game that these are the rules of the game that are being drawn up by the ruling party, and we have had some limited success in that. So I would say that overall we don't believe that this is necessary, but of course voters may have a different view, but whatever it is, we will just play by the rules.
As an academic, I feel it's important for me to at least explain gerrymandering for those who are less familiar with the term. If you have ever wondered why Upper Serangoon happens to be in Marine Parade GRC when you cannot see the sea, that is a strange shape. That shape was named after the first governor that shaped this, Governor Elbridge Gerry, and how his constituency looked like a salamander. So that's the origins of that word. Not more information than you probably needed to know. Yeah. So more information than you needed to know.